And the terms of the lease say that as long as Prince Andrew maintains the upkeep of the property and the repairs and the renovations, then he...
Behind palace gates, royal titles meant nothing. Staff feared the man behind the teddy bears. And what happened if one was out of place? Behind the towering gates of Royal Lodge, far from the public's romanticized view of aristocratic grace, lay a reality far more unsettling. Life for the household staff under Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson wasn't refined. It was rigid, intimidating, and deeply controlled. With Andrew now officially stripped of his titles and facing eviction from the estate, the stories from inside Royal Lodge are finally coming to light, and they paint a far darker picture than anyone could have imagined. Former staff are finally speaking out, and what they describe is a household driven by fear, silence, and the unchecked ego of a prince no longer protected by a crown. According to the recollections of one ex-palace maid, while other royals were strict but polite, Andrew was different. Cold, demanding, entitled. Even something as minor as a curtain pulled an inch too far or a teaspoon angled slightly wrong would set him off. Employees didn't just worry about doing their jobs. They were terrified to breathe wrong in his presence. That fear, it wasn't paranoia. It was lived experience. A former aide summarized it best. You heard him shouting before you saw him? And the sound of his temper was very much a daily soundtrack inside the walls of Royal Lodge. Protection officers, aides, butlers, all of them noticed the same thing. Prince Andrew, even behind closed doors, ruled with a tone of superiority and constant dissatisfaction. Now officially divested of his prince title, the palace put out a terse antiseptic statement. The king has formally started the procedure. From now on, he will be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. But behind that chilly statement lies decades of behavior that made Royal Lodge one of the most difficult assignments in the royal staff circuit. And nothing illustrates that better than his now infamous obsession with teddy bears. Yes, teddy bears. Multiple former staffers confirm Andrew owned approximately 72 stuffed animals. Yes, 72. Most of which were attired in sailor suits, military uniforms, or in ceremonial regalia. Every single morning before he entered his room, staff were required to arrange them in a certain order, from largest to smallest. From left to right, like soldiers in formation, when one bear was out of place, there would be repercussions. Only one. A misplaced paw or a jacket shifted a little too far might bring on a verbal lashing. It didn't stop there. New employees were trained in bear protocol. There was even a laminated diagram beside his bed, a step-by-step battlefield-style guide to properly setting up the plush army. One former royal guard said it looked like a military operation plan, except the battalion was made of toys. Every night, the bears had to be moved, not flung aside carelessly, but were placed strategically around the room. Some were set up to sit in identical groups, others arranged inside an unused fireplace like some sort of bizarre ceremonial display. To outsiders, it sounds preposterous. A grown man micromanaging stuffed animals. But for the people working inside Royal Lodge, this was their day-to-day reality. One that showed just how obsessively controlling Andrew really was. Not just about his surroundings, but about the people serving him. It all started with Teddy. Bears, staff recall that the whole household was like a functioning army base. Everything was controlled. His shirts had to be folded in a particular manner. His shoes were lined up at perfect angles. Breakfast? Served on pre-approved trays with nothing out of order, ever. One misstep, and a maid could find herself scolded in front of everyone. One insider didn't hold back. He treated people like they were beneath him. You weren't there to think. You were there to obey. In a palace where the staff are trained to maintain royal dignity no matter the circumstance, working for Andrew wasn't service. It was survival. And with the world now watching his downfall unfold in slow motion, with his titles gone, his reputation in tatters, and Royal Lodge being packed up box by box, these stories suddenly feel less like quirky anecdotes and more like long overdue warnings. This wasn't just a man misunderstood by the press. This was a pattern, a culture, a kingdom of plush bears and broken spirits. From prince to pariah, the fall of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor isn't just about scandal. It's about the people he left behind. The question is, what else have we not been told? Hit subscribe for the next explosive part of this royal unraveling. What happens when the staff are too afraid to speak, the titles are stripped, and even the daughters walk away? This isn't just scandal. This is royal collapse from the inside. Even among senior royal aides, the truth was hard to ignore. Andrew's temper was legendary. Behind closed doors at Royal Lodge, the tension hung heavy in the air, thick and inescapable. Staff whispered about it constantly. There was always this sense of walking on eggshells, of watching every word, every step, just in case his mood snapped, as one former member of the household put it best. You never knew which Andrew you were going to get. polite and proper one moment, screaming the next. While Andrew's behavior often made headlines, those working inside the lodge had their own opinions about the woman beside him. Sarah Ferguson. In her early days, Sarah was everything Andrew wasn't. Warm, friendly, approachable. She laughed with the staff. She asked about their families. She brought ease to a place ruled by rigid tradition. But as her marriage began to fracture and the press turned crueler, something inside her changed. One former aide described her as kind, but tightly wound. Another recalled how she once left a member of her staff in tears after a sharp exchange over something trifling. She was not by nature cruel, but unpredictable. One minute she might be bursting with laughter. The next, she snapped under pressure. Unlike Princess Diana, whom so many staff remembered as gentle, composed, and deeply considerate, Sarah was impulsive. Magnetic, yes, but volatile. And yet, even then, there were moments that showed her heart. Several employees noted that Sarah often tried to defuse Andrew's outbursts, that when his voice rose, she was the only one who could bring it down. She was the buffer, one former maid said. She'd step in when no one else could. He only listened to her. And maybe that's why they remained together for so long after the marriage was over. Two people who understood each other's flaws, who lived not as husband and wife, but as co-survivors under the same roof, not out of romance. But routine? That arrangement? It's over now. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been ordered to leave Royal Lodge after the final removal of his remaining titles and privileges. His next address? A private house on the Sandringham estate. Smaller, quieter, but still within the royal security perimeter. Earlier this year, she sold her $4 million home, reportedly under the belief that she'd continue living at Royal Lodge indefinitely. But with Andrew's lease revoked, she is being forced to find another place she can call home. Alone. Insiders say she's quietly devastated. Royal Lodge wasn't just a house. It was her last link to royal life. Her safe place. Her illusion of stability. And now, nearly 2 decades later, the former couple will live apart. Andrew will retreat to Norfolk. Sarah will disappear into uncertainty. Behind them, they leave a household remembered not for kindness, but for chaos. Former employees talk about very long days, impossible expectations, and the kind of power dynamics that left people emotionally spent and even fearful. It was once touted as the abode of the world's happiest divorced couple, but has since come to feel like a symbol of dysfunction, delusion, and denial. Andrew has lost the status, the respect, and the protection of the crown. Sarah, she's now entering adult life without financial security, without a title, and without the shelter of Royal Lodge to shield her from public judgment. What remains is a legacy of exhaustion, of the staff who endured rigid rules and unpredictable tempers in a house that projected glamour but offered none inside. So what do we really take from this? That behind all the palaces and press statements, the royal household is not immune to ego, cruelty, and collapse. Andrew's downfall is no longer just about scandal, it's about character, or lack thereof. And as for Sarah, she will do what is most important next. Will she finally, honestly and humbly, reinvent herself outside the royal machine? Or disappear into quiet obscurity? Even their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, have stepped away. According to sources close to the royal family, both women have stepped completely away from their parents' chaos. Eugenie reportedly spends much of her time in Portugal, where her husband works in luxury property management. Beatrice is reportedly dividing her time between Europe and the US, far from the scrutinizing British tabloids. Both sisters are said to be deeply shaken, not just by the headlines, but by what's been revealed behind them. For now, it would appear that the House of York has broken irreparably. Each member adrift in a different direction, not exiled by the crown, but by the weight of their own actions. The walls of Royal Lodge are crumbling, and what's left in its wake isn't royal at all. It's raw, it's human, and it's falling apart. Subscribe now and hit the bell, because the truth about this royal unraveling is still unfolding.